Hey everybody, in this episode of Box Office Breakdown, Dr. Sleep was busy taking a nap while Midway soared to number one. We're going to break it all down next.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk, we talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Box Office Breakdown.
Hey everybody, welcome to Box Office Breakdown. This, of course, is the show that looks back at the box office that just happened, and then we look forward to the box office that's coming next week. Holy cow. And
welcome.
Look at this. Yes, I'm Frank Morant, and joining us, special, all the way in from his fantastic new show here on Popcorn Talk, Star Wars News, Ryan Nilsson.
Thank you so much, Frank. Pleasure to be here, y'all. I am in the live chat, and I know last time I was here, I made an outrageous bet about Downton Abbey.
Yep.
And I lost. Completely wrong. And I should be wearing a Butler uniform. Let's just say I might double down on that, and there might be an even bigger bet, but that Butler outfit is coming, okay? This was a put me in coach
There you go.
moment, but I'm so psyched to be here and talking about the box office. It was kind of a crazy week. I can't wait to get into it.
It's going to be fun. Now, as always, making us look good and sound even better is Bree in the booth.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Brianna Phipps.
Look at this. The best in the biz.
She is the angel of Popcorn Talk.
That's true. There you go. Yep.
I am floored. That is such a beautiful and amazing announcing.
Well, it's
Thank
not
you,
amazing.
Brian.
It's true.
There you go.
There we
That's
go.
true.
And we're just psyched to have everyone here in the chat. So, yeah, y'all.
As always, folks, like us on Facebook. Give us those 5 stars on iTunes. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give it a thumbs up while you're there. And as Ryan said, the chat is up and running, so hop in there. I know you folks are already in there sharing your thoughts, but feel free to talk about anything that we're talking about or just anything movies in general.
Urvada Hassin says, I love Frank. Well, we love you too.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't see an I love Ryan, but that's fine.
Yet.
You don't need to. Yet. That's right. We also love Brie.
All right, so diving in, as I said at the top here, we had a sneak attack here for number one of the box office this week. Last week we were kind of speculating what we thought, and we have a Stephen King film based on a successful book, based off a successful film as a sequel.
Yes.
So now you're thinking, all right, how could this not? The curiosity would be there. How could this not take number one? Unfortunately, Dr. Sleep did not do well, and instead, Midway came from out of nowhere and took number one of the box office with a nice $17.5 million.
Right, which isn't that big.
No, not on a slow weekend like this, but still, I don't think anybody ahead of time was anticipating this to do as well as it did.
I think this was one of the most abnormal weekends at the box office of the entire year, because going in, you have really 2 big releases that aren't Midway. You have Last Christmas and you have Dr. Sleep. And it's November 8th through 10th. Mm-hmm. I thought this was such an odd weekend to release those 2 movies. One, this is the weekend after Halloween. Like, are all the people who liked Halloween thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna be into the scary movie next week"? Like, no, that should have come out in October while everyone's hyped for scaring. I don't know why they picked November 8th. And then Last Christmas, we're a month away from December.
Very true, but
Why are you putting a Christmas movie out?
it is always
in November?
frustrating. Because last year they did The Grinch. The Grinch came out first week in November as well, and that had legs to it. And there's always that thought, like, hey, well, people, once Halloween's done, there are those people that immediately go, it's Christmas.
Yeah.
Forget Thanksgiving. It is Christmas.
I have a piping hot cup of coffee here. I keep burning my tongue on it every time I take a sip. Sorry.
So I could see Universal's thought, and like, all right, yes, this is where we're going to jump right into it. We're going to get out of the gate. The Grinch did well this weekend slot. Let's put Last Christmas there. And it did not do well. But it's also Veterans Day, which was a shrewd move when it came to programming Midway into this slot.
Right. And in hindsight, it seems obvious. On Veterans Day weekend, a war film opening at number 1, I think all the factors that were kind of going against that for us and maybe the speculators on if it would do well is that it's directed by Roland Emmerich. Mm-hmm. This is the guy, he did Independence Day, but Resurgence, horrible. I think he did White House Down. Yikes. His past few times up at bat have not been great. And this movie's kind of just been sneaking in there. Hasn't been a ton of advertising. It looks pretty generic for the most part when it comes to war films. True. So I didn't really think much about it. And as our video title suggests, we slept on it.
Yeah, from everything that I saw, what little I saw of this movie, but the general overall tone is that the action sequences and the flying is fantastic. The story itself, very cliche and clunky.
Right.
So, I saw a little bit. As I was leaving the theater yesterday, I was like, I'll just duck into Midway for a hot second,
Nice.
just to get a little tone of that. And I saw just one quick scene with the Jonas brother there and Dennis Quaid. And, it was a little rough.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't. It goes to show that I guess some films, just premise alone, if you have the right weekend, can perform well. And I think that's what made this interesting. So interesting is that a war film on Veterans Day weekend will succeed. I think that's around the time. Well, no, American Sniper was in a January release, but I have to imagine, if you put a movie like that out on Veterans Day weekend, it's bound to do better. Mm-hmm. It's a longer weekend for some, and that's just what everyone's thinking about. Whereas these other two films. Look, I mean, what you were saying up top, The Shining is probably one of the most famous horror movies, if not the most famous horror film of all time. But it wasn't a successful film at the box office.
No, that's true. I mean, and Stephen King has come out and saying that he does not enjoy the adaptation of that novel that Stanley Kubrick did. And he did go out and saying that he felt like this redeemed a bit of that film for him. Dr. Sleep did.
I did see it.
Yes, as did I.
Oh, you did? Oh, we'll have to talk about it. But I think the thing is... I was making this point earlier to one of our coworkers, Stephen Lemieux. He was saying, everyone under 25, present company excluded, has not seen The Shining. And that, as awesome as the sequel is, if this came maybe 10 years ago, I think you could have got an entire other audience on board, and it just would have been a much more popular film. And it's a longer movie, too. 2.5 hours.
Yes.
Fewer showtimes. A lot of these factors contribute, and I'm still shocked it didn't get number one. It's just like, what is going on? So I thought that was guaranteed box office.
As did I. And then when you think about it, we have seen so many in the last year or two of sequels to films that have been dormant for a while, for franchises that have been dormant. Right. And so this is probably one of the furthest ones that it's had a sequel from. Mm-hmm. And you're right. As Stephen was saying, anybody under 25 having not seen the original film.
No one's probably seen it. I'm thinking, and then with The Last Christmas, I think it goes back to what you were saying. It looks a little generic. I would not know from that poster that Paul Feig?
Yep.
Paul Feig directed that. A guy who's such a stylistic, comedic director. This is his Christmas album, quote unquote. And you have no sense that he even had a part in that movie from the poster, from the trailer.
That is true.
It's really fascinating.
Real quick, Dr. Sleep did $14.1 million. And since, as Ryan and I have both seen the film, we will share our spoiler-filled thoughts towards the end of the show to give you an opportunity if you want to hop out and don't have anything spoiled for you if you haven't had a chance to see it, which, given the way that it's done at the box office, I feel a lot of you may not have seen it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the chat right now. Nyla J even said, I just skipped out on the movies this weekend. She was happy to have a break. We also got Sky Patterson saying, Midway did well because it's a generic war film full of fashion models. Also, it's Veterans Day weekend, too, which is interesting because I almost feel the same about Last Christmas, but the weekend just doesn't support that movie. I'm really curious how Last Christmas would have performed if this was December 8th through 10th as opposed to November 8th through 10th.
It still wouldn't have done.
You don't think so?
It's not great. It's not great.
Word of mouth also contributes. It's just the thing, Midway didn't have good word of mouth.
No, it didn't. No, I hadn't thought. I mean, I remember seeing a couple advertisements and some commercials. Yeah. I never saw a trailer in the theater for it, though.
I literally did not hear anything or know anything about this movie until today.
Right.
And I was just like, as I pulled that poster up for when you guys were talking about it, I was like, oh my God, like Patrick Wilson, Darren Criss, Nick
Woody Harrelson.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Why is so many? How did I not hear about this film?
That's why I'm saying it's time. The release date it's pitch perfect marketing for that.
I assume, given your reaction to how many great people are in this film, Bree, you're buying your ticket right now to go see it.
I mean, I kind of want to go see it just because of the actors.
See? There you go.
If they had done better job promoting it, I probably would have gone this weekend. But I literally didn't know it existed.
Well, I look forward to you going next weekend then and telling us all about it.
Right. Who saw Midway? Sound off in the chat. I have a hunch no one in the chat saw it.
I mean, apparently people saw it because it won.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm just curious. I think it's that target audience.
Very true. Coming in number 3 this week was Playing with Fire at $12.8 million. And then coming in number 4 is the film we did our box office bet on last week. That's Last Christmas, as Ryan was mentioning. Paul Feig directed film. Co-written by Emma Thompson, based on an idea for the film with Emma Thompson and her husband, Greg Wise. That did $11.6 million.
And who won that bet, Frank?
Well, Bree, I mean, I guess if you really want to get into it right now, we can certainly do that.
Go.
The winner
Go.
with $14.75 million, Bree,
Yes.
you were the winner.
I was the winner. And remember, I almost went 16 with
You
you
did.
and Carrie, and I decided last minute, nope, I'm going 14.
She
I
played
think it's
the
not going
under.
to.
That's right. Carrie came in second at 16, and I came up in last place yet again with 16.
I mean, that's not technically true because remember, the chat gave Amy a 30 million bet.
That's
so.
true. Yes.
Wow.
So Amy, she loves her romantic comedies.
That is my thing about this film is that it's been billed as a rom-com,
Yeah.
but I really don't feel like there's much rom in this com.
Or love in general.
Yeah, and the com is not that great either.
Honestly, from watching the trailer a million times I watch a lot of television via the internet. So with ads, this
Sorry.
movie got played. The trailer got played so much, and I was already over it before I could even go see it because I just got shoved down my throat on those ads.
Now, all right, Bree, I'm going to ask you this
Good point.
question based on what you only saw on commercials, trailers, whatnot. What do you think this movie is about?
The girl and the guy, she plays an elf,
Okay.
and she's cynical.
And she's cynical.
Yeah, she seemed cynical from the trailer.
Got it. I took it as, okay, this is a George Michael music video.
True. I mean, it's all about, there's a lot of, if you love George Michael, I mean, this is
There's
the
a
soundtrack
lot in
of the
there.
film.
I mean, this
at
has
some point they get together, and some point they and then something happens that makes one of them mad at the other one. They break up, but then they find their way back to each other before the end of the film. That's usually how that goes, right?
True. Yeah, but this film a little bit different, Bree. Little bit different.
a little bit different. I also just thought this film had a winning team behind it. I really do. I love Paul Feig, and
Yes.
his way to take a genre and add a comedic spin on it, like a Spy, or even Ghostbusters, not very well received, but did well.
Bridesmaids.
Bridesmaids, even a Simple Favor last year. Incredible film with loads of comedy, and this was his Christmas album. And instead of it being a Mariah Carey Christmas album, it was more like a band that just does some covers, and you completely forget about it.
I do have to really fast shout out to the chat from last week because we were saying Mariah Carey for this, and then afterwards I did realize that is not the Mariah Carey song, and they were 100% right.
George Michael.
And me and Carrie were trying really hard to convince ourselves that was the Mariah Carey song.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I missed out on that combo.
Yeah, it's a shame because I feel like there is. If you've seen the full trailer, you pretty much guess what the twist of this film is, and there's been a lot of talk about what the twist is. It's it's pretty obvious right from the beginning, and all you're doing is you're watching to see how true they stay to that twist.
Right.
Yeah, so you see that Henry Golding, which I like him in Crazy Rich Asians, and he's fun to watch in here, but he's not in this film as much as you would think based on the
Really?
trailer.
It's fascinating. Yeah, really odd weekend at the box office. I do think. I do think that this does say a lot for Paul Feig. Like, I don't know if he's a sure bet anymore. He's just had a few stumps in the road at this point, and I think he was one of the most bankable comedic directors out there, and now not so much. He's had a few box office duds.
I think they should have taken some of the promotion from this movie and given it to Midway. Because then
That's
I would
true.
have known about Midway and not been so annoyed with this one. Because I was turned off to going to see it because of how often I saw the trailer.
Yeah, I would like to know, especially when you, as you were saying, Ryan, when you have somebody of the comedic chops of Paul Feig doing a film like this, how much of a back and forth he and Emma Thompson had in terms of with the script and working on it.
I mean, Emma Thompson, I think, is such a talent on her own. That was another reason I was really curious to see the film. But that's a good point. I think it sounds like a lot of the issues with this film that I've heard have been from the script, from the writing. And I guess at what point how many can you do a rewrite? Did it need another pass? Were they trying to reach this date? I'd be really curious to see the film. I plan on seeing it.
Yeah, it's one of those where if again, if you've seen the trailer, you can figure out what the twist is. But I don't know if that's necessarily bad marketing in terms of Universal's part. But because even if they changed the way that they had presented it to the film-going audience, there, it's still, even if you went in not knowing what the twist is or even having an idea of the twist, seeing it played out just if you're seeing it for the first time on screen, you'd still be kind of let down by the way it's executed, I think.
Really? So it's the execution of the film. Yikes.
Yeah. So that, and then of course, rounding out our top 5, Terminator, Dark Fate. Yeah. So there you go. Right out there.
Yeah, there we go. Terminator Dark Fate, obviously a massive disappointment from last week and probably a ultimate death to the franchise. I think this franchise is terminated. And I'm sorry to hear that because from what I heard, it's the quote-unquote best one since 2, which isn't a high bar.
No, it's true. And I was looking at just the 10-day totals, and this is still underperforming Genesis, the last Terminator film, which I feel like is definitely a sign that this franchise may need to go sit down for a long, long sleep.
Right. And long sleep. Sleep is the word this week.
There you go. Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep. Yeah. I do think it was just kind of too little too late. After you have 3, is it 3? Yeah, three films in a row before this.
Yes.
That just people weren't happy with. A 4th is hard.
No, that's true. And I don't know if this is a franchise you'd want to see, say, stays kind of dormant for 10 years, and then somebody starts at the beginning by remaking the original Terminator and going that route. I feel like that's the only option at this point. I think to try to continue the franchise as it is, it would be foolish.
It'd be foolish. Just redo it or leave it alone from now on. Yeah, I think it had its time. It's sad because it just fizzled out, and you hate seeing franchises that have such a big fan base around them, or that there's a bunch of fans out there for, just kind of fizzle out and not really have that final epic win. And it's not like Star Wars where you have all these decades of time in between, and there's all these new generations of fans. It's like Linda Hamilton and Arnold are there. And
That's true.
There's time travel. It's a messy storyline at this point. And they're even now ignoring other films, and it's just so sloppy. It's a shame. It really is, because Terminator 1 and 2 are classic Hollywood films and are classics in their own way. And I wish it had a bigger, a better life later in the franchise.
Well, it is interesting because, if you compare it to Star Wars, where you're saying, so you do have three films straight in a row that pretty really much galvanize the fan base and really lock it in. And they follow it for, then it's 2 decades before it actually, almost 2 decades before the prequels happen.
Right.
So those are 3 films that mixed bag, but I think overall people are disappointed in the prequels. And that's why people were so excited about when Force Awakens comes. So if you kind of compare that to Terminator, it's got 2 solid films, 3 duds, then comes back with the 4th one that's better than the previous 3, but still not exactly what people wanted.
I think it's the type of franchise. Star Wars is such a huge world. Even though they're focusing on one family for the most part, the Skywalkers, there's so many different stories. And even with prequels that for the most part didn't get a lot of praise, they were successful. And they also had a new generation of fans and spawned TV shows. Like Star Wars movies definitely took a seat for a while. But ever since the 2000s, we've had stuff on Cartoon Network. We've had things on Disney. We've had Rebels. We've had books. All these types of things. And now it's just that it's all coming to a hold, and we're even getting a show this week. So it's just that the size of that universe is so big. There's so many stories to tell. There's so many books to write. Whereas with Terminator, it's the Connors and Skynet and time travel. And it's so easy to get some stuff mixed up when you have time travel and you're making massive decisions in each film and trying to just make a movie around that. It's almost like this one almost had very few avenues to go down. And I know that there's something really controversial that happens within the first 5 or 10 minutes. And maybe that's just not what you kind of want from your Terminator films if you're a fan of the original 2.
True, although I feel like that's when you see real world aspects coming in, because you feel like, well, we need to do something to we can't rely on who we've had in the previous films. We need to do something to change it going forward. And the only way to do it is to change something very fundamental about the essence of what Terminator is. And maybe that's just too much for people to that's taking it too far. Well, the filmmakers think oh, we need this. the audiences might be thinking like, no, I was fine with what we had.
Yeah.
We do have someone in the chat, Rec Writer, who said Dark Fate was like going to prom and then realizing you're not getting laid.
Oh,
Yikes. Okay.
all right. There you go. Well, what better way to wrap a bow on that one there? Folks, we just did our box office bet where Brie, once again, I mean, she's on a tear with these box office bet victories. We'll see if she has what it takes to pull out another win this coming week. There you go, the little fanfare there. Because there are three films for you in the chat to vote on about which we'll do the box office bet. And those films are The Good Liar with Ian McKellen and Helen Mirren. Seemed intriguing.
I'm so excited about that movie.
Wow.
I don't know, something about the trailer. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, Helen Mirren's been having some gem performance films over the past couple of years, so definitely want to look forward to.
We have Charlie's Angels with the Elizabeth Banks directed film.
Yeah. Wish I was a little more excited for it.
I know. I mean, what I like about this is that they're still treating it as in continuity with the previous Drew Barrymore films. This is like now this is taking place present day, which I do like that. I
will
feel
say that this looks like the best I've seen Kristen Stewart from the trailer. Like, I'm not a huge Kristen Stewart acting fan. From the trailer, this looks like it might be her best role that I think.
Wow. Yeah, her and Robert Pattinson have definitely been trying to get the quote-unquote Twilight stink off of them for a number of years. She actually had an incredible film 2 or 3 years ago called Personal Shopper. Gotta check it out. It's an indie film. Phenomenal. But yeah, she's been doing she has some unique choices over the past couple years, like a lot smaller stuff. And this is a bigger commercial film that's not a Snow White and the Huntsman or a Twilight. So I'm really curious to see how she does in this one. It's fascinating. We were just talking about Terminator. You know, McG did Terminator Salvation. He's directing this film, and he directed the OG.
yes, Elizabeth Banks is directing.
Elizabeth Banks is doing this one. So I love Elizabeth Banks, and I do have faith in this movie. She did the last 2 Pitch Perfects. So we know she's got chops in directing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I just don't think that there's a big buzz around it, from what I can tell. Like, I'm not hearing a lot of people excited for Charlie's Angels.
I feel like more people are excited about the soundtrack because they were really pushing that in the trailer when it first came out over the summer. It's like, make sure you listen to the Ariana Grande song that's coming out for this. So
This could be a big soundtrack film. Yeah.
yeah. And then the last film for you folks to consider for your box office vote is Ford versus Ferrari.
Nice.
Matt Damon, Christian Bale, looks very cool.
James Mangold directed.
Yes.
Love him as a director. Done Logan, Copland. Huge James Mangold fan. This movie looks great. From all I've heard, it's really good from a lot of people. I don't know if it's racing films other than Talladega Nights don't typically do that well. Like the film Rush a few years back. I love that movie, Ron Howard film. Just didn't get a ton of attention that year.
What about Driven?
Driven.
The Sylvester Stallone
Drive.
film?
Yeah.
That was that Sylvester Stallone and Burt Reynolds, fantastic.
Yeah, but I think that this one might be a little different. I think this could, just because of the star power behind it. Those movies I was just mentioning have one big star each, like Ryan Gosling in Drive, Chris Hemsworth in Rush, and this one's got both Christian Bale and Matt Damon, who 2 of Hollywood's biggest stars. So I do think that this will pull maybe more people than those other films have in the past. Yeah. So I'm really excited for that movie.
Oh, it should be very cool. So
I feel like this is the first time in a while that all 3 movies on the bet I have heard of.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right. Fantastic.
I was psyched that you heard Good Liar, Brie.
Yeah, I love both those actors so much. I'm very intrigued. And I know it's going to be a twist film at the end. Something's going to be unexpected happen, or expected, but either way, I'm in for it.
True, because if somebody told me hey, which one of these 3 films do you think Brie would want to see? I feel like I would have gone with The Good Liar.
Yeah,
right out of the gate. I feel like that seems like a Brie film.
It does, and this movie, I think it looks really good, and I think what's really refreshing about this coming weekend is I think all 3 of these films are going to hit different audiences. They're all different kind of fan bases. Good Liar's probably it's an older audience, perhaps, just with the star power and 2 legacy actors, massive talents, whereas Ford v Ferrari.
Yeah, Ryan's saying you're old, Brie.
Wasn't inferring that, Brie.
I do have, a mature taste.
It's a much more mature audience as opposed to like a Charlie's Angels and Ford v Ferrari are probably opposite audiences as well. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how they all do next weekend.
I start voting away now, and whichever one gets the most votes is one that we're going to do the box office bet on.
It does look like so far there's only been votes for Ford v Ferrari.
Oh, hey, nice taste
Matt
there.
Damon, Christian Bale.
Like that. So, folks, some quick international news, because I know Ryan is excited to talk about this.
Oh, yes.
Is, again, lackluster results here for Dr. Sleep, both domestically and internationally. So basically, couldn't do very well in the worldwide box office, which meant that Joker still chewing it up there, and it's closing on the $1 billion mark worldwide.
Unreal.
Yes,
I really did not see that coming.
It'll become the first R-rated picture to hit that.
That's such a huge landmark, both for Warner Brothers, DC, and just R-rated films in general. I think this movie so outperformed what Warner Brothers thought it would. It's exceeding all expectations. I was really excited for it. I produced DC Movie News on the network, and we've been in hype for this movie ever since Joaquin got cast. And I think it's just sparked such a discussion. People are going multiple times. It's a hit in all regards. And this is, with that fact in mind, it's not in China.
Yes.
That's such a huge deal. Could you imagine if this movie was also in China? We're talking past $1 billion, well past, maybe even getting closer to $2 billion.
No, very true.
Really fascinating results.
It would have been interesting to see what the reaction in China would have been to this film.
Yeah, I definitely think it would have gotten some. Well, it's just the time right now. I could definitely understand why it's not.
Yes,
but yeah, I definitely think that would have added even more to its income.
And as Ryan was saying, it was kind of a quiet weekend here at the box office there. And so compared to last year, it was basically we're down to about 52% internationally.
Wow.
Yes. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ew.
So for some reason, I guess last year we also had Venom that was also programmed and it was doing really well internationally. So that helped kind of shore everything up.
I also think it just right now, over the past 2 weeks, we've had 2 big streaming companies starting to release their platforms with Apple Plus a week and a half ago, and this Tuesday we got Disney Plus coming out. I don't know if that's had a major impact on our box office, but that's definitely putting some stuff into people's heads. Like, okay, I'm now structuring how I'm going to take in my entertainment. I'm probably going to spend more of it at home with these streaming networks because of these new shows coming out, and they're brand new streaming networks as opposed to maybe going to the movies, which is kind of a darn shame.
True. Although I feel like the morning show, I don't know if I'm really worrying about that, but I feel like when Disney Plus comes in, and there was a big article about how, given what Kevin Feige's comments were, that Disney Plus the shows on there for the Marvel films will be very much tying into the films, and it's going to be a good thing to see those because that's going to really tee you up into the next set of Marvel films that those characters will appear in. So I feel like they're really seeing what Disney's probably going to lead the way in terms of how they're really getting viewers to consume their content. So because you're getting it from both sides. You're getting the streaming platform as well as you're getting at the theatrical releases, and how those two are going to kind of start coming in from both sides to really create something. Will it work? Will it not?
We'll see.
Yeah.
Definitely Disney Plus is much bigger than Apple. That was sort of them dipping their toe into the streaming wars where Disney's going all in on Tuesday. And I cannot wait to see how that turns out. People in the chat, we got TTO saying, I bet Joker would have made $500 million in Hong Kong alone. You have a point there. However, it's the third film so they're talking about Charlie's Angels. And yeah, they think it's going to depend on the critic reception for maybe how that does. And then, next week we're getting Frozen 2. Yeah, it's a great point. People are probably winding up for that whole onslaught of like late November, December films where it's just like Oscar, films after one after the other and just all the way through Star Wars. Yeah, we're hitting prime movie season right now.
Although I feel like it's going to be Frozen 2, and then we might have a couple fine weeks, and then Rise of Skywalker.
Boom.
And then that's going to go bonkers.
You got Jumanji too.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
You got a ton of big ones.
That's true. If you want to see The Rock doing Danny DeVito, yes.
Finally. Finally, we're getting it.
So, folks, before we do get into our box office bet and a little few spoiler-filled thoughts about Dr. Sleep, let's predict what we think next week's top 5 is going to be. Again, we're adding The Good Liar, Charlie's Angels, Ford versus Ferrari into our already top 5 list here, which isn't. They haven't set the bar very high, so I feel like any of these can easily topple Midway.
Yeah, I think I got my 5.
All right, lay it on us, Ryan.
All right, so number 1, start from 1, right?
Yep.
Number 1, Ford v Ferrari. I don't think by number that is a conservative bet. I bet it's gonna be within 5 million of the next one, which I think will be Charlie's Angels. Number 3. See, I don't want to underestimate Good Liar, but if I've learned anything from Downton Abbey, I think I'm gonna put Good Liar at number 3.
Okay.
I do think the 3 films coming out this weekend are gonna be 1, 2, and 3. 4. I think Midway's going to take a drop, so I actually might go Dr. Sleep at 4 and then Midway at 5.
Interesting. I want to believe in the film-going audience for Ian McKellen and Alan Mirren. I'm going to just slightly change it, and I'm gonna swap Midway and The Good Liar. I'm going to put Midway at number 3.
Midway at 3.
Good Liar coming in at number 4, and then rounding it out will be Dr. Sleep.
Nice.
So, folks, it is time to do a box office bet here on the film that you,
boy.
Yes, you in the chat have chosen there. The way that works is whatever film that you folks have voted on, we will do our bet on what we think the opening box office total will be. The person that's closest will get to be like Bree and just bask in that victory. And then the loser will be like me and have to go see that film and tell you all about it.
Bree, I'm just curious. Where do you think Good Liar is going to place?
Oh, I think it'll probably get her between 10 to 13, but it's not going to do extremely
But
well.
in the top 5, where do you think? Like 1, 5?
Maybe like 4.
Maybe 4? Wow, I even had it higher than both of y'all.
All right.
I don't know. I feel like this might be like a slow burn one where some people see it, but like I feel like this will be a one that a lot of like people my parents' age will see, which I know my parents, and they don't rush to the theater.
See, I said that
Have
earlier.
you seen Downton Abbey yet? Has your mom seen it?
I don't actually know. I need to check in with her.
All right.
I know that her friends were going to go see it, like her couple friend, and then she didn't want to be a third wheel.
Got it.
I did. My parents did see it. And they're huge fans
And
of the series, so
They love it.
they did love it. And they're like, "It's a cliffhanger. We can't wait for the next one." I'm like, "Wow, okay,
Oh, all right.
sounds good."
So, Ken Jack, I call to you as always there in the chat. It was the summation of these film bets.
Yes, it says. He said Ford v Ferrari won.
All right, Ken Jack, thank you so much. All right, Matt Damon, James Mangold, Christian Bale.
Yeah.
There we go. Should be. I mean, the trailer looks very cool.
It does look cool, and it's a part of racing history I'm not familiar with.
That's very true. All right. Well, let's see. It's a little easier when it's films that you're like you don't mind losing on.
Right.
Doing your bet, you're like, okay, whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I want to see this anyway.
It's not Rambo. You know.
Last Christmas, that one hurt a little bit, guys. Having to go see that one. It's when you wake up Saturday morning, you're like, let me just check the box office. I'm gonna lose. I gotta go see Last Christmas today. All right.
I really do think that this is a star power movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is pulling. It might pull that NASCAR crowd.
I think that it's. I'm trying to think of how to say this. It's like I don't know if like a lot of women are going to be driven to watch this film.
Boom, boom, boom.
Ba-doom.
There
But
you go. All right.
Just because Charlie's Angels is also coming out, you know.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's going to probably take that audience. If you're going, you're probably going to they're going to split at the theater, and the guys going in there, and girls going in there. I do think it's going to do well though. And you just can't underestimate a Matt Damon or a Christian Bale movie.
Can't.
They can still open stuff, especially together.
This could be the Reese's peanut butter of films right here.
I definitely think so.
There you go. So Bree, without any further ado, are you locked in for your bet?
Yeah, I'm a little shaky on this one, but I'm going to go with my gut.
All right. Ryan, you good?
I'm good.
All right. What do you got,
I'll
Bree?
write it down.
I'm going to go 19.25.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
What do
I
you
probably
got?
shouldn't reveal. Okay.
Go for it. What do you got?
I literally wrote 19.
Oh!
I have 19 right here.
All right.
So I'm taking the under Brianna Phipps.
All right.
Domestic under.
We'll see. I have to go. I can't ever give a full number. I have to go somewhere point decimal.
Again, I shot for the moon. I went 23.
All right. That puts Bree in a little bit of a bind there.
There you go.
But
No, bind.
yeah,
I
you're
have to be in the
easy.
middle.
You're resting easy, Bree.
she's resting
I'm
easy.
good.
Yeah.
You guys are on the sides.
Okay.
You're the low bet. He's the high bet. I'm in the middle.
I'm getting a little sweaty from this one. Yeah. Okay.
So, folks, that's going to do it for this part of the show. We're going to do a few, as I mentioned, spoiler-filled thoughts about Dr. Sleep. But if you want to tune out now so you don't have anything spoiler for you, thanks for joining us. Like us on Facebook. Give us those 5 stars on iTunes. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And thanks, everybody, for hopping in the chat. And if you want to stay in touch with any of us, even after the show's over, Bree, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at Bree, BRI_Phipps, PHIPPS on Twitter and Instagram.
Brian?
At Rye Nilsen, RYNNILSEN.
Fantastic. And Star Wars news every Thursday?
Yes, every Thursday right now, it's 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Oh, there you go.
And The Mandalorian.
And The Mandalorian After Show is coming up on Tuesday. Oh my gosh, every time someone says the word Mandalorian, I get a burst of energy bigger than this coffee. So I cannot wait. I've been waiting for that all year. I think it's going to be the best show of the year. So check out our Mandalorian After Show. We're going to have one episode on Tuesday, but it's usually going to be on Fridays. So tune in for that.
Fantastic. And follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HappyGoJackie. All right.
Star Drew, Ryan, you already lost this box office bet. Thank you, Star Drew. I really appreciate it.
There you go. Way to end the week with a nice affirmation. From
Dr.
Star Drew.
Sleep.
Dr. Sleep. All right.
Are you a Stephen King fan? Because I'm a massive Stephen King fan, and I've read the book.
Yeah. Oh, you read Dr. Sleep.
I've read Dr. Sleep. I haven't read The Shining, oddly enough, but I do know the differences between the novel and the movie. And what I thought this movie had a really unique challenge on was being a sequel to both the book The Shining and the movie. And I think it did a phenomenal job for the first 2 hours.
And then the climax let you down?
It wasn't necessarily the climax. And oddly enough, the parts of this film that I was looking most forward to were actually the ones that I think hurt the overall movie, which was going back to this Overlook Hotel, recreating these shots from Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which I thought were beautiful. So awesome to see. But I thought the first 2 hours of this movie, it was doing its own thing. It was really committed to its own story. And I was sold. I was so invested in the characters in this movie and the plot. I thought the plot was amazing. You know, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining is way more of a character piece, whereas this was far more plot. And it was very confident, very bold. I was so invested in the story. I thought it was really it was uniquely visual in its own way, not trying to really even live up to The Shining. But at the end, when they're at the Overlook Hotel, and we spend so much time like going to every room we're familiar with, as cool as that was, it took me out of the story. It took all the wind out of my sails, and it honestly kind of let down the end of the film for me.
Because it is something when you're watching Ewan McGregor walk through all these sets
With an axe.
and the lights popping up as he's coming into each hallway or each room. If they had trimmed that down and they just get really to when he gets to the ballroom and he's at the bar and he's having the conversation with Jack Torrance, if they had trimmed that down, would you have still felt like the momentum had kept up?
It's fascinating. It's a great question because really necessary scene, I think, at the bar there for his character. I just don't. It made me starting to think about The Shining as opposed to the story they were telling right then and there. And I've read Dr. Sleep. Overlook Hotel's burned down. Mm-hmm. They don't do that in the book. So this was added in. That's where it comes, hey, we're trying to do a sequel to both. I don't think they would have gotten people to go to the theater at all if they didn't show in the trailer that he's back at that hotel. So they were kind of in a tough bind in that regard. I was just so impressed by the first 2 hours. Rebecca Ferguson's villain, one of the best villains I've seen in a film recently. Truly horrifying. I thought she was phenomenal. And that they developed this villain so well. Most horror films, the villains are kind of put by the wayside. If you've seen, she's as much in this movie as Ewan McGregor is.
No, that's true. It was interesting seeing the family that she's created. And, you know, a villain is not a villain 24 hours out of a day. There are things that they care about and they're passionate about. And so she's very passionate about her clan that she has with her. And you see when things start happening, and we see like even the oldest one.
Right.
Yes, when he
perishes.
Yes, when he perishes, just how she's trying to. Well, we're spoiling.
Yeah, you're right.
Yes,
Sorry.
we're spoiler Phil talk.
Yeah.
But when she's kind of talking him through as he's passing on, just really kind of pumping him up, and you feel like just the emotional connection between those two characters.
Just when was the last time you saw a scene as horrifying as when they took out Jacob Tremblay?
Yes.
Cringing. That was so hard to watch. That was prime Stephen King. Like that this movie soars in the first 2 hours, and I don't know. What did you think of the Overlook Hotel scenes? Because it felt cool, but it just didn't fit in the story. I think
for me, I didn't because big spoiler here. I've never actually seen nor read The Shining. Never seen either one. It's always one of those like, I'll get to it,
Okay.
I'll get to it. So I didn't have that. But what I liked is just seeing. Sorry,
We're good.
so many other things.
We're good.
I get it,
You haven't seen The Shining?
I've never seen The Shining.
Oh my gosh.
I never have.
Okay.
Frank, you always surprise me with the fact that you haven't seen like first runs of things.
That's.
So, but that's interesting.
What was it last week? Sorry to interrupt, but what was last week? You saw the sequel, but not the original. Something.
Oh, it's true.
What was it?
I can't remember.
Was it Rambo? Was it Rambo?
No, I did see all those Rambos.
You saw
I
Last
all of
Blood.
them. I saw all of them.
I'll think of it randomly.
Yes.
but-
Okay, but so that it worked for you, I guess. Did you get any of those feelings when they?
Because
going
I know
back?
the general gist of it, and so
Right.
I can buy in. If, for me, I like things that revisit other eras, other times, other
Right.
aspects of a story. So for me, I was like, even though I had not seen the film, I still appreciated
So
the
it worked,
connections.
right? So yeah,
Yeah.
because I think if you haven't seen it, you're not familiar with the Stanley Kubrick isms from that film, that might have fit in a little more naturally for you. Whereas I tie those shots, that the production design, everything that they were recreating so much with that character piece film, that in this really plot driven movie, it just kind of felt out of whack, as great as it was to revisit it. And that was the last thing I thought I'd have a problem with this film. But yeah, that's fascinating.
Real quick at the beginning is that we see Ewan McGregor, Danny Torrance. He's suffering from alcoholism, something that he inherited from his father. There, we see a little bit at the top, and I'm kind of two opinions of that. Is that one? It's a long movie. There's a lot of stuff to get into.
Long film.
So you can't, unlike a Stephen King novel, you don't have the real estate to really dive into Danny's current state at the beginning of the film. So I feel like, in one sense, it was just like tacked on, where it's like, yeah, he's really down, and now all of a sudden he's in rehab now, or he's going to AA.
Yeah, a little fast.
Yeah.
Maybe a few more character beats up top to get you caring about him a little more. I think it was really relying on people who had seen The Shining for that, but I don't think that should have been required for someone like you who hasn't seen it. So that's a really great point.
So, folks, if you want to hear more spoiler-filled thoughts about Dr. Sleep, just tweet Ryan or myself. We'll share our thoughts about them. Yes, we've got plenty of them. But, folks, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to be back here next Sunday with an all-new episode of Popcorn Talk right here. Or also a new episode of Box Office Breakdown right here on Popcorn Talk. Until then, folks, go see some movies.
Go see some.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.